in the House thought they could get rid of him or silence him by, throwing him off a committee or whatever. They've been proven horribly wrong about it. He's been there for a couple years now, upholding the liberty message. He's been providing a standard to compare the rest of the House to, and especially with Dr. Paul's retirement, it's great to see leaders like Congressman Sanford, Congressman Amash, and Congressman Massey carrying on the torch of liberty in the U.S. House. Congressman Amash was elected in 2010 to represent Michigan's 3rd District in Congress. He chairs the House Liberty Caucus. He serves on the Joint Economic Committee and the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. In 2010, Time named him one of its 40 under 40 rising stars of U.S. politics. As a leader in incorporating Facebook and other social media into his work as a public official, Mr. Amash posts an explanation online of every vote he takes, and he's extremely faithful about that, and that's been pretty cool to see. So, yeah, give him a hand for that. Now, recently he made some news for something else that was fun to watch, which was a vote that would have defunded the NSA's domestic spying program. Just giving, with just one shot at it, he got over 200 votes in the House. It was incredible. 205, got 205 votes. Came this close to winning on the first shot. So imagine if we're getting that close, if we're making that much of a difference already, imagine the next vote, or the vote after that, if that's what it takes. We can keep pushing, we can get those victories in the House, and Congressman Amash is one of the leaders leading the way, and right now, please join me in welcoming Congressman Justin Amash.
Hey, everyone. Who here likes the Patriot Act? All right, I'm in the right place. Okay, good. I was nervous when I got here. So I'm delighted to be here. I want to speak for just a few minutes, then I actually want to open it up to all of you. So you can ask me any questions you'd like, and that's actually my preferred format. It's usually what I do. It's been an exciting time in Washington. It's been an exciting time fighting for liberty. We have a growing coalition. As we've seen with the Amash Amendment, which I worked on with Rep. John Conyers, a Democrat, this is a growing coalition that's getting stronger and stronger, and we're going to start to have some real victories in the near future. I'm very confident of it. When we had the NSA issue come up, most people in Congress were taken by surprise. Now, I voted no on the Patriot Act, and I knew there was problems with the Patriot Act, and there was problems beyond even what's being discussed with the NSA. But I'll tell you that a lot of my colleagues who voted yes on the Patriot Act were very surprised about what's going on, and I think rightly so. What the Patriot Act says is that the government may collect tangible things on a person who is the suspect of an investigation. And the tangible things have to be relevant to that investigation. And what we discovered through the leaks was that the FISA court, which is a secret court that has secret opinions, was interpreting the word relevant to mean everyone's information. So when the Patriot Act was drafted, whether you like it or not, and I don't, for a lot of reasons, but whether you like it or not, people in Congress thought relevant meant relevant. They thought that when you are targeting a person with the Patriot Act, you're actually targeting someone who's the suspect of an investigation. And what we discovered was that that's not the case at all. There's this Section 215 that's being interpreted expansively, and that's where the Amash Amendment came about. And what we wanted to do with the Amash Amendment was simply require that when the government uses the Patriot Act to go after someone, to collect their information, to collect tangible things, it's often called the business records provision. When they do that, they have to collect on a person who's the subject of an investigation. As we learned, instead, what the government was doing was collecting everyone's phone records in the United States, every single person. And in some of the declassified documents, you'll also see that they're at least at one point, was an email records collection program. So they were collecting email records as well. And there are a lot of other things that are happening that some of which I can't talk about because I hear about them in classified briefings, but there's a lot of things that you'll read in the newspaper where the government is going well beyond what was expected under the Patriot Act and under the FISA Amendments Act. Now, the interesting part of all this, of course, is how the House Oversight Committee and the Senate Oversight Committee, the Intelligence Committees, which are supposed to oversee the executive branch, so the House and Senate Intelligence Committees, which are supposed to oversee the executive branch, they were actually working with the executive branch to keep some of this information from members of Congress. The intelligence committees, which are oversight committees of the executive branch, were put in place in order to make sure that we had congressional oversight of what the executive branch is doing. And what we've discovered, actually, is that the executive branch and the oversight committees, the intelligence committees, were basically working together against the rest of Congress. For example, in 2011, there was a document that was provided to the intelligence committees, and what we learned was that this critical document, which explains, at least in some rudimentary fashion, these programs, this document was not provided to all members of Congress. So the executive branch said, here's this document. They provided it to the intelligence committees, and the intelligence committee, at least in the House, decided we're not going to provide this document to members of Congress right before a vote to reauthorize the Patriot Act. So there was no way for members of Congress to know about these programs. What you'll hear from the intelligence committees, from the chairman of the intelligence committees, is that, well, members can come to the classified briefings and they can ask whatever questions they want. But if you've actually been to one of these classified briefings, which none of you have, but I have, what you'll discover is that it's just a game of 20 questions. You ask a question, and if you don't ask it in exactly the right way, you don't get the right answer. So if you use the wrong pronoun, or if you if you talk about one agency but actually another agency's doing it, they won't tell you. They'll just say, no, that's not happening. They don't correct you and say, here's what is happening. So you actually have to go from meeting to hearing, asking questions, sometimes ridiculous questions, just to get an answer. So this idea that you can just come into the classified briefing and ask questions and get answers is ridiculous. If the government, in an extreme hypothetical, let's say they had a base on the moon. If I don't know that there's a base on the moon, I'm not going to go into the briefing and say, do you have a moon base? Right? If they have a talking bear or something, I'm not going to say, have you engineered a talking bear? You're not going to ask questions about things you don't know about. The point of the Intelligence Committee is to provide oversight to Congress. And every single member of Congress needs the information. Each person in Congress represents about 700,000 people. It's not acceptable to say, well, the intelligence committees get the information, we don't need to share it with the rest of Congress. The Intelligence Committee is not one of the branches of government. But that's how it's being treated over and over again. And to show you how silly this whole thing gets, I had a colleague, one of my, I won't say his name here, but he went to a number of classified briefings, and he asked a question, and he never got a satisfactory answer. So he would just revise the question from briefing to briefing. By the time he got to the third or fourth briefing, he asked it in just the right way. He had figured out how to ask it exactly the right way to get the answer he needed. And, of course, then they said, oh, you caught us. Yeah, we do that. Then we said, well, can you provide us some more information? They said, we'll check. We'll see if we can provide you with this information. We'll see if we can provide you with a document about this, this thing that he discovered. And so we left that briefing and we said, okay, we may get to see something very interesting here. Then the way we were notified about the availability of this document was through a totally irregular channel. So they said, okay, we'll make this document available to you, but we're not really going to give notice to anyone. They sent it through the Dear Colleague system. This is a system that, it's almost like a spam folder, frankly. Not everyone in Congress is signed up to it. And basically it's a system where you send letters to your colleagues about different issues. Will you co-sponsor my bill? Will you sign my letter? That kind of thing. Normally, if you're getting information about an upcoming briefing or an upcoming document that's going to be available to members of Congress, you would get an email. A normal email would come to you, to all members of Congress, saying, hey, there's a document that's going to be available. Come stop by. But no, we got it through the Dear Colleague system. And the only reason we noticed is because one of my staffers is silly enough to have this spam folder and look through it. She happened to find it. And she alerted me, hey, we've got this, this document that's going to be available tomorrow. And it's going to be available between 9 a.m. and noon. And it's available between 9 a.m. and noon on the day when members of Congress are leaving to go back to their districts. So I went back to my colleagues and I said, hey, did you hear about this, this briefing with this document? And they said, no, what are you talking about? I said, there is this notice, we found it, that a document's going to be available. They said, haven't heard of it. I said, okay, well, come down to the briefing with me. They said, okay, if you say so. We grabbed a few more people. The only people who showed up at that briefing were the people I talked to. Nobody else knew that that was going on. Not a single person outside of the people I talked to knew that it was going on. And we had to sign a disclosure when we went in their disclosure agreement, an anti-disclosure agreement, saying we wouldn't talk to any of our colleagues about what we saw. So we can go to this briefing, we can see this document, which I can't tell you about, and we had to sign a document saying, sign a non-disclosure agreement saying we're not going to talk to any of our colleagues about what we see here. And that's it. You got that 3-hour window, done. After that, you're not going to hear about it again. And so you can see why when the Intelligence Committee, and they ridiculously sent out a press release today saying, oh, we have provided these briefings to members. If they didn't come by, they're just too lazy. If they didn't know about these programs, it was because they're just not competent. That's basically the gist of what they're saying when they send out these press releases. It's totally ridiculous. And it's outrageous. And these intelligence committees are supposed to oversee the executive branch. They're supposed to work for Congress, and they're supposed to work for you. They're not supposed to work for the administration. And I don't care if it's a Republican administration or a Democratic administration. They're supposed to work for you. And frankly, you have people on both sides of the aisle who are working together to prevent members of Congress from having this information. And it has to stop. So with that, I want to open it up to any questions about any topic. But thank you for having me here today. I think there's a microphone coming around.
Yes, sir. Thank you for being here and everything you're doing. I just want to say I'm Lee Burton from Vidalia, Georgia, served in the military. Seen a lot of things happen that really upset me. One, former Marine Brian Terry killed on the border with weapons the ATF smuggled out. A couple of buddies of mine killed in Benghazi, covered up. See a lot of the stuff we're trying to do to support the same people I've been fighting for 20 years. Every time you guys talk to any kind of briefings on C-SPAN, I see you constantly trying to ask the right questions, whether it's yourself or Darrell Issa or Senator Paul, and nothing ever seems to come to fruition on that. And I'm wondering, what's the next step for you guys to do that are trying to get some answers for the American people to hold this administration and also the corrupt politicians accountable? Thank you.
Well,